Recording now. All right, so welcome. Now, we're here. What are the objectives for today? I want to set up a layout as distinct from a workplace, a workspace in MapInfo. We touched a bit on that the other day, Sebastian, when we did that session. Um, uh, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. I might be able to help you at the end of the session with that, Sebastian. How to set up a layout file, a template with a title bar and logo for future use. Again, that's something, especially when you're doing professional work, that you want to have as an output. Understanding the secondary CAD functions of using MapInfo as a design tool. So we had a session the other day where we looked at some of that, and then developing some standard design templates. So we'll attempt to get through those. So today's steps with that is the creation of design layers, looking at the fantastic parallel offset function, which is not unique, but I think uniquely simple in this software. Exporting to Google Earth, saving workplaces, and then setting up layouts, including title boxes and logos, as I mentioned. Okay, so with that, let's get to the screen, and it's the same property that we worked on the other day. I'd certainly, if you haven't seen if you haven't had a chance to have a look at the recording that we did the other day, I know it's long; it's 5.5 hours or so, but we did a lot of this work that I'm going to go through today in that session. It was a live session of me designing, so I'm going to reiterate some of that here, and I'll actually use some of the design work that we did there. Excuse me. So to start with, looking at setting up the layers, as distinct from, and I'll just go over to Google Earth for a moment, and its layers. Google Earth is very, very useful. However, I'll just go to this project. However, its layer management is pretty average. You can see we've got more or less the same data on the screen, or we have the same data on the screen. We've got the topo and we've got the aerial. And I went through how to get that into MapInfo and into Google Earth last week. When we look at building layers in Google Earth, you have in one way more control over the information that's in your layers, but it's in fact too much control, and you don't have the ability to grab two layers and move them up and down, or all of that sort of thing. So it can be a bit iffy, especially when you look at each contour line being its own layer, layer within a layer. Then it starts to get a bit, when you've got a lot of them, it starts, as I'm scrolling down, it starts to get a bit old, as opposed to really what that layer should have, as it does in MapInfo, is it should be all part of one, and that when you click on that layer, it has the information such as the Z level here, or Z level, and so on. So there's some disadvantages there with negotiating Google Earth. MapInfo, it's all in one layer. So there's the topo layer there, and it's all one. I don't have to when I click on that, there's not all of this superfluous information. If I want to grab one, two, oops. If I want to grab a few layers and move them, then I just grab them and move them, just like that. It's not like it is in Google Earth. The creation of layers, naturally I have a predilection to creating layers based on the Agrarian's platform. So I usually use the name of the property or project and then the corresponding Agrarian's platform layer. Now, we may well build on that just because some of the layers want a little bit more. You want a couple more layers within layers so that you can turn things on, turn things off. Also realize that they are physical layers. So if I, for instance, build a dam and I want to show a pipe on that dam and I put it all in the water layer, then the pipe will disappear in the polygon of the dam that I've just drawn. What I mean by that is, I'll show you. We did a dam here the other day, and just here, and I'll just zoom in. I'll just zoom in on that. So there's a dam. I've got a pipe. Now let's assume that I haven't. That with this dam, I've turned that into a solid. Just make it blue. Right now I can't see where that pipe is, or if I was to add a pipe, say a lock pipe, that went from, say, here through to here, then you can see it disappears underneath that. Now, what I could do is I could create another layer and make that MacIver / water / pipes, and I could put that above water because this layer map over the other side here, this layer chart over the other side here, it physically paints where the layers are. For example, if I put MacIver topo over water, you can now see that the topo lines come over the water. Right. Whereas when I put them below it, they go back to being invisible under that. So there's those sorts of aspects which you've got to consider in the further in the development or addition of further layers to all of this. Good morning, Roman. Nice to see you here. You can, I know Sebastian can't use his voice this morning, but if you've got the ability, please chime on in. Same with you, Sen. If you've got any questions along the way, you can either type them in or speak them. All right, so that's that. Now, in terms of creating layers, it's a very simple matter. Just go click and new table or control N. Now you'll get this window that comes up. You can, this screen that we're working in, MapInfo has two types of screens that you'll mostly be using. It has a couple of others, but the main ones that you'll use are the mapper, which is what we're using now, and this is where it's sort of live and live and to scale and editable. And then there's the layout, and we'll talk about the layout later. So I don't want to open a new mapper because that'll take me out of here. So what I'll do is I'll just click that off. A keyboard. So I'll just do that with the keyboard. So you can press MA. We're in Windows, so you've got the Alt key functions, which is useful versus the Mac. So you just press MA and you're there. Now it says create new, and I create, and then in the name I'll put MacIver, and I'll put water, and I'll put say pipes, pipe, and just copy that. So Command C, Control C, and then create, and then you put it into where you've got everything else. So make sure you've got all of that set up already. A nice place to put all of those files, which we talked about last week, and Command V, Control V, and done, right? So there's the water pipe, and it automatically goes right to the top and becomes editable. So whatever you've got highlighted on the map, so whatever you select on the map will automatically will automatically be bold over in here. So I haven't got other layers on, but say I put access on now, I click the access layer, it becomes bold over here. So that can help you when you're seeing whether you've put something on the wrong layer, for example, which if you have, you can activate that layer, and now it becomes selectable, and you can control X and cut that item, and then click where you want it to be. And so for example, let's say I'll take these pipes out and I want to put them in the water pipe layer. So first up, I'll click the water layer and I'll click Control X and they'll disappear. Then I click the water layer, make sure it's editable, Control V. And now they become part of that layer. And as you can see, they've gone above the polygon of the water layer now. So there's that sort of thing that you can do. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. That's all pretty basic. Right, now, next thing. Parallel offset function. We did a fair bit of that the other day with the, in fact, a lot of that the other day with the work on building this dam, for example. This dam was we did that. We used that process. We also used it in conjunction with something else that I didn't have in the list there, but I'll show now, and that's where we used the pin. So, which is why I've got these MacIver points. I'll just put that there. And just, if you want to unselect something, Control W is the way, or you just click off the object and it'll unselect. So, so what we did the other day was we were working out how big this dam was, or how high this wall was, and all the rest of it. I'll just adjust this so I can illustrate what I was talking about. And with that, we did a cross section of this particular slope. And with that, I used a couple of tools. So first up, I used this tool here, where we measured the distance between the respective contour lines. And so I took a note of that. So I put down 20, 36, 58, 93, 108. So that, and then from that, I used this tool where I made a little dot. And we just did it here. Where I popped a little dot there, and then I selected the dot, and then I used this tool, which is called the offset. Now it's different to the parallel offset, right, or create parallel tool. They're two different tools. So what I did was I went offset, and you can put this dot anywhere you like within however many degrees. So if I want to go, well, 0 is to the left, to the right of screen, and 180 is to the left of the screen. So if I want to go and do this map, this cross section, I'll go, what was it, 22, I think it was. So 22, I'll create a copy and it will plot across 22, right? So that's the distance between here and here. And then what I can do is get that object again. I want it to go up, so to the north of the screen, upwards, and I want to go it. These are 1 meter contours, so I want it to go up. Now I'm going to get it to move the object this time, as opposed to copy it, and it will go up 1 meter. And then again, what was that distance? I've got 35, 36 meters. So now I go back to the original one and I repeat the step. I go to 180 degrees, 36 meters, create copy, which I just use the Alt-C to hotkey it, and right, that goes up. Now I've got to go up because that last one was 1 meter. I've got to go with this one 2 meters. So move object 90 and 2 and click. Right, so there you go. Now the next step onto that, so if I want to know what the shape of that line is there, then what I can do is one of the, I'll just finish there. One of the steps I'll do just before I finish is 270 and 2, create copy. Right, so that put that down there. Now, what you can do is just get a line and draw a line between, use the snap tool, which is, will come up down here, just click there, I'll just use the S key, and that snaps to a node. Right, if you turn it off, it's there, right? So we just do that and we go back to there. So you can say that that's the bottom of the axis, if you like. And I'll just change that line style. Okay, and we can do the same. Create another line where it goes, click, and you just join the dots, just as you would on graph paper. And with that, you've now got a representation in this, on this line, of the cross section of that slope without vertical exaggeration. Oh yes, it is. Everything's always recorded, Roman. What we do is our model is to have live sessions and then record them and then put them up online as well. So yes, no worries at all. So with that, we could then we could then work out how this dam would actually work out. And I'd strongly suggest, if you look at that program that we did the other day, you'll see that in the first, I think it's in the first hour of that program, you'll see the where we go through this whole process, and I strongly suggest you look at that. So that's a useful thing to do. Now, when we went through that process, the next part of it was that because we were trying to work out how high this wall was and what the actual offset was for the batters here, because these lines here that we've created, zoom out a bit, they represent the top of the wall. And I'll draw what this means here. It'll be easier. Oops. Just bear with me. I'll just get another bit of software going. Desk scribble. So, if you like, what we've got here is we've got A, B, C, and D. All right. So if you're looking at a cross section, A is here. It's the water level, full water level, and then we've got B, which is the top of the embankment, and then C, which is the other side to the top of the embankment or the crest, and then D, which is the toe of the wall, the outer batter toe. So what we wanted to do was get an estimation of, what these heights would be relative to each other, and then and then with that, we could then work out how far across this would be. So what the offset distance would be between here and here, right? So that X is X, right? But in order to do that, we had to first do a cross section of the actual site, and that's where those steps came in. So you'll often find yourself in using this software using the offset objects tool and the parallels. So the offset tool and the create parallel tool. Okay, so with that, I'll just get rid of these. So with that, what we did is some more mapping. Let's get out of here. Now let's say that I wanted to build the contour map of this dam, for example, as it goes down in depth. And let's say that the slope angle going in to the, just to make life easy for us, let's say that the slope angle of the cut of this dam, of the excavation of this dam, was 1:1. All right, so 1:1 is not that; it's 1:1. So 1 meter of depth of length for 1 meter of height. So that it's also 45 degrees or 50%. Right, is 1:1. So most earth moving uses the ratios as opposed to percentages or degrees. So anyway, so let's say we want to do that. Now I'll just select the shoreline, for example. I'll just get that. Now we know that we're going to be going down 1 meter, so that means that that we go in 1 meter. So what we'll do is I'll select this. Well, first up, I don't know that that'll work. I'll just try. I don't think you can. Oh, you can. So we've got 1 meter. I'll just get rid of this scribble. We've got 1 meter here. I'm going to click both sides because the left and right on this function depends on which direction you drew the object. So, for example, I'll just go back a moment. What I mean by that is, if I draw an object, here's one here. Right now, I've drawn that going to the right. Okay. Now, if I want to have it so that I'll just make it a bit more visible for you. So if I want an object, if I want to parallel offset that one and put it so that it's to the left of that, it should go to the left, which it did, right? Because I drew this to the right, from the left to the right. So there's that relativity. If you're just unsure, which people like me who can't remember a bloody thing half the time, what I do, if I can't remember, I just take a punt and do it, and if it doesn't work, then I can just delete it like I did then and choose the right side, or I select both sides and I get parallels on both sides. Simple as that. Okay, so that's how we play that game. Now, again, I can't remember which direction I drew this here, so I'm just going to take a punt. And you can do this with both, use this function with both polygons and lines. So let's give that a go. Righto. So there you go. So it went both sides. So you can see it put a polygon on the outside, which has gone, if we zoom in a bit, you can see has gone to the outside of the embankment, to the crest. So we'll get rid of that one. So we'll just select it and delete. Now we've gone down a meter. Now you can see here, this is a good illustration of what's gone on. We've got a 75 centimeter freeboard here. And so with that, so the distance between here and here, because it's a 1:1 slope, it's a 77 centimeter distance between here and here, whereas the distance between here and here is a meter. All right, so that just illustrates, and this is in a plan view. This won't create for you a 3D. This is just so that you've got some sort of indication of how the topo might work in this sense. So I didn't see which one was the right way around then. So we're going onto that outside one again, and I'm going to go, I'm just going to take a punt with this and say it's to the right, and this time it's going to be 2 meters. Oops, not 22. Yep, I did it right. Okay, and then I'm going to go. Now this dam we made 4 meters deep, so I'm going to go again. 3 and 4. Right, so that inner one there is the base of the dam, and from that, one of the things that you can do if you make these polygons, each of these polygons, is that you can work out the area and get a bit of a better idea about the volume of a dam as a way of playing. All right, so that's one way of using this. Another way of using it, which we'll look at here, is to do things like fencing and forestry and roads, etc. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I might just save something first. I'm just going to select those and just put them in the points layer. So I didn't do that the other day, and I should have. So Control X. I'm going to go onto the points layer. Command V. Right, points are there now. And then Command C or Control C, save all of the layers that I've worked on. Become familiar, as in with all software, of where your save hotkeys are, so that you keep things all as they should. So now we're going to get to other uses of parallel offset. So this is an example of where we've done just that. So here we've got a road, a gutter system. So we built this dam that was over that. So the other day we built this dam on the screen after we'd calculated the catchment and gone through all of that stuff. Then what we did was we knew that this was the contour that we needed to use to get water to this site. So, excuse me. So once we selected this first line, so we made a line like this one here. Sorry, I'm just go out a bit. So we selected that line. I'll just turn off those other layers for a moment, just so we get a little less noise. And then, in order to create the actual size of the embankment, we then and the ditch as it is. So this is a structure that has a shape that's similar to a dam. So here's A and here's B, and so what we're doing is we're going into the water, and then we're going up onto the ditch, up onto the bank. So that there is so this is the blue line, the 2 blue lines, and this is these are the 3 green lines as they go down across the slope. So blue, 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 green, 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 right? So that's what they are to reflect. You do it that way so that obviously it creates a bit of noise on the map, especially when you zoom out and you can't see that detail, but you do it so that you can offset other things. And so, for example, we wanted to put a line of trees on here. So we talk about, all right, well, let's put a line of trees. That means we're going to go, hang on, something's not happy. Okay, go away. So we want to put a line of trees in. Well, a line of trees are going to go where? well, we think about it and we go, okay, well, I'll draw on here and I'll think, or I'll draw on my sketch pad. And I go, look, I've got to put if I've got that embankment and I put a tree right up against it, I can put it right there, and that might work. But what about during the life of that tree? Is it going to start to upset this embankment with its roots and all of that sort of thing? Or do I want to have a bit more maintenance, etc.? So I might want to, let's say I want to have a bit more maintenance, then I'll put the tree out here as opposed to right at the toe of the embankment. And I'll do that so that's a distance that I can, say, fit a tractor or something down here to mow the grass, if that's what's going on, right? There's that sort of thing that might happen here. That's a farmer on a tractor. And ditto, there might be that we put a fence in. So, all right, well, we've got to think same sort of thing. Do we put the fence right up against the tree? If we're heavily mulching each tree and it's that sort of style of planting, well, that might work. But if it's a broader ecosystem, then we're probably going to be using the slasher a bit more, at least, especially when it starts out, to control vegetation and let the tree and give the trees a fair go before they get fully established. In which case, then we might go again. We'll work out what that width is of the mower on the tractor, work that out, and then we apply X to here and X to here. And so that becomes then the position of our fencing. So you do a bit of that kind of work before you get to the point of deciding where these offsets will actually be. Ditto with the creation of these banks, just like we did with the dam. So, or ditches and banks. I mean, if you go back to the ditch, for example, you will do some work on calculating the peak flow volumes running off that catchment using your hydrologic soil groups data and your surface area data, and then start to work out how wide that embankment, that ditch might need to be. The ditch might change in its size over the length of it, and that's something to consider. A lot of people, just for ease of construction, will just make the ditch the same dimension the whole way along, right? So, and again, what we're looking at here in the creation of a concept plan is a concept plan. It's not a detailed plan. We're doing the concept plan in a reasonably detailed way, but there's details that will go beyond this and that are reflected in more detailed drawings and assumptions that are created. So this is just to get you started so that you can build on, all right, the next set of questions. So it's kind of like let's place things first. Let's place them so they look more or less like they will. That's step one. And then step two is where we actually go through and do a full CAD if required, or do specs on what's needed, and then apply those specs in the field when you're constructing, which is, 9 times out of 10 the way we do it, as opposed to having a full CAD experience and machine control and all that sort of la. So I want to put that forestry layer on. So what I'll do is I'll just click on, for example, I'll click on there, and I'm going to say that it's 3 meters off the offset from the toe of the embankment. I'll just get rid of the drawings here. Oops. And so I'm going to say it's 3 meters. I'm going to choose the line style that I want for those trees. Go solid or thicker, and I'll just use this one here. And hopefully it's to the right, and it wasn't. All right, so it just gives you an illustration. So I'll just unclick that, go back to the line, click there, go left, and away we go. There we are. Now that line of trees is exactly parallel with the object here. That's a big thing in Keyline. Yeomans, particularly when he wrote the city forest, that was when he really reinforced in the development of urban systems how important the parallel offset was in development. Okay. Now, the other part to parallel offsetting, and I'll just get rid of that because that's not part of what I did as a design, because this is actually a live design and with live clients. So you can see there where I've put trees on the top and bottom, and if I click on here, you can see I haven't put it here, but I would put a fence. I may well put a fence, say 3 meters below here as well. So I'll just click, just pop that in. Fence in. Oops. And go 3 meters, and there goes my fence. All right, so I've got there the good sense of what's all going on in that site. Now, the other application is in creating keyline geometry for keyline pattern cultivation and all of those sorts of purposes. And also in this case, what we've done here is we've used keyline pattern geometry to, or keyline geometry to create these fencing patterns that we have here for this layout. Now you'll see over here that the client has already been using these patterns with the establishment of all of his pastured pig areas, and they all fall towards the ridge, but they're not equidistant because he did them by hand. And he decided after doing 250 acres of it that way, that he would, which I can show you here. Where are we? Fencing. See, he's mapped all of his fences with the GPS, and we've done a bit of work to build all of that into some sort of database. But anyway, so he did all of that by hand and not super happy with it. So his feedback to me was on the next go round on this other side of the property, let's do it properly this time. So that's what we're doing. So, it's part of the thing. I mean, my argument is, why bother getting a really high-grade contour map if you're not going to use it? And one of the things that you can do here is just that. So we can go out now with the GPS, and we can click on a point like here, and with that click, I can then create a. See, that's the longitude and latitude of that point. So I can do that for one line, and then everything can parallel off that, or we can. So I can do another point here, another point here, another point here, another point here, and then someone like a Sebastian who has a total station or an RTK or something can go straight out to the site and plot those points exactly where they are on the site. So he'd probably walk along here and plot, 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 then walk along here, plot, 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 and just go like that, and just find and navigate those points. And then the next step will be the farmer will come along and they will put the fence in exactly where that is, and that's permanent, which is great. And you've got the pattern that we want, which is the fall from valley towards ridge, which is what we did the other day. Now let's say that I've drawn that and I want to parallel offset a tighter fence. So these are 40-meter spacings. So what I'll do is I'll just get on here and I'll just go 20 meters, and I'm going to do one on both sides because I can't remember what side they are. Right, so there you go, simple as that. Now it might be that as well, I might want to put a line of trees along next to that. So same deal. I can go onto here. In this case, though, I would select the forestry layer, not the fencing layer, and I would click on that. Click on that. Now you can see it's selectable, but it's not editable. And I'll click on there, and I want to put trees on both sides, and I'm going to put them, say, 3 meters either side of that. Go to here, select our style that we want to show that it's trees, green, and make it a bit thinner, and both sides, bang. Right, so let's put trees both sides, and it's pretty handy. Some of the things that will happen though, and that's what I wanted to show you next. Got to get out of here. Let's get rid of these. Is which one did I keep? Keep that one and get rid of those two. Yeah, I don't know. Select my fencing layer, get rid of those two customers there. Oops, they won't delete for some reason. Try again. Let's draw a new line. Let's find another place to do some keyline patterning. Okay, here's a spot here. I'm going to do some ridge cultivation on this ridge here. Let's just use that as an example. So I'll use this one here. So I'll just use this fencing layer, that's fine. I'll actually use the geography layer because that's more appropriate. So what I'll do is I'll select my polygon line. You might want to select the what color it is. I might use the tree one. But let's say I'm going to put trees in. Okay, I want to put trees on following keyline geometry. So I'll go back to forestry, click on there. And I'm going to go to this line. Now you follow that principle in keyline of, say, being on a ridge. You find that lower contour before it starts to really change, which you can see here. There's a big change between here, these ones and these ones. So we'll illustrate that. So here we'll use this one. I'm going to go and follow this contour more or less. Okay, and go up more or less until it becomes part of the valley form. So that's about there, right? So that's that line. Now I'm going to parallel offset that. I just smoothed that out because, oh goodness, when you get those sort of irregularities, just move on, just smooth over them. So I'm going to make, let's say I'll make this an alley system. So I'll go 40 meter spacings, keeping in with what we're doing. And what have I gone? I've gone, so that should go to the right. So that should go inside. And it does. Now see what it just did then? Wow. Let's try something else. I'll just hold that thought. Let's do a 10 meter parallel. Go right again. Now see how that keeps. But look at, this is a useful function here. What you'll do when you're using parallel offsets, you'll use this key all the time. It's the reshape key or tool. The reshape key shows you when you're clicking, you're putting out a series of nodes. Yes. Sorry, I didn't get those questions then, Sebastian. Assuming I've got good, yeah, exactly right. On the total station, what about machine access into those type coordinates? Yeah, great question, and that's something that you've got to look at with your radius. If it's not such a big deal when we've got a 40 meter width between our rows. We can handle, even a radius like this, we can handle. But it's when we've got tight rate, we've got a 12-foot spacing or something like that, then that's different altogether. So grid pattern function. I'm not sure on what the grid pattern function is that you were talking about there, Sebastian. You might want to just elaborate on that. Okay, yeah, perfect. Yep. So I've clicked this out. Then I've offset and I've just gone 10 meters. Now, see how those two nodes, these two nodes are quite close together. This one and this one, right? Now look at what happens when I select the next one and see the position of the nodes. Because this is what happens with this parallel offsetting. What it does is it starts to bring everything in. So there's your next one there, and your next one will be there, and so on, right? So they all start to line up like that. Let's do the next one. Let's do the 20, and this let's go inside of this one. So 10 meters. Right, and you get the first of this sort of chaos that starts to appear. Now let's have a look at this. Select on you here. We'll just come in closer so we can see what's going on. And it's important to understand this because it's just part of the deal, but you can work it out. Yeah, right. So now you can see when you look at, I'll just get rid of this diagram, drawing. So now you can see I've got these nodes. You can see where they change direction. So the nodes here are going, so it goes, there's a node, there's a node. Right, so that's actually going over to there. And that, believe it or not, is parallel with that, right? But because of the way it generates the nodes, ditto with this one, this one, this one, there has to be one over here somewhere that it's probably that one. Right? Actually, it's probably not that one. It's probably that one there, right? So with that, what we do is this bit's the bit that's important, right? These become, in effect, superfluous now. So what we do is we didn't take me long to work this out, which is kind of surprising for me, because I sort of stumbled on this. I know Eugenio Grass showed me the function on this version, and from that we just sort of went from there. Right, okay. That's good to know. Good to know about AutoCAD self-correcting. So what I'll do is I'll just pull that so that they're right into the center. And, you know, it helps to sort of understand, especially when you're a practitioner, not to have to create such perfection, because it's not going to be perfect in the field, and you need to understand that. So the next one we've got here, so if I do a parallel to this, let's look at, see, I've taken those nodes out, and that's part of the correction. Let's see how different it is to the next one that I've got. See how that is, I did a 40-meter parallel with this one, and this one I did a 10-meter parallel with this one, right? So it's, let's look at the relationship between the two based on that simple correction, right? So this one here, it's right off. This one here, by the other, where I've done a little bit of correction here, corrects altogether. So what I'll do now is just select those nodes and do what I said before. Just click off, and she more or less comes in. Now see how they've got an extra node in there? Because they're a straight shot, just get rid of it because it's noise. Yeah, it moved a tad, but who cares? It really doesn't matter in the sense of it, in the scheme of things. Now I'll go in and I'll do another 10, and I'll just get rid of this one because that's just noise to me now. And wow, she's just done that. So clearly, I'll just zoom out again. There was some other correction that needed to be done. See how these go along here? That's got shorter and shorter. And I'm just going to fix this up so we've got the illustration of it. Now, because it's got to that point, what's actually parallel here? Because there's as you probably realize already, the distance between here and here is not going to be the same distance as between here and here. That's just the way stuff works, right? So that distance there is 11 meters, whereas that distance between there and there is 10, right? And there's not much you can do about that. And that will increase as you get tighter. So the distance between here and here is therefore the greatest as we get tighter. Okay. Would you add another node before patterning up the hill? Pardon me, yeah, so sorry, Sebastian. If you start patterning the uppermost line furthest uphill, Yes. So exactly. So if I did the other way around, and this is where you can sort of illustrate the keyline patterning, which is what I'll do next. So let's say I want to create a cultivation pattern. Right there is the apex. So I'm going to bring the apex right back to there. Yes, thank you. Just reminding me of my next meeting. Half an hour to go on this one. So we've gone from there back to there. I'll just do that. And then I'll get rid of these extra nodes. All right, so now we've got that parallel. Now, I could have, if this was going further, I could have just grabbed this and just done this. I do a bit of this. So as long as you stay on the line, you'll stay parallel and true. So let's see what this looks like. I'll get rid of this one. Oops. And we'll parallel offset that in 10. All right, so you can see that right there is the apex that is critical. So we'll just use Control R, bring one of these nodes back to that apex, and then click on the remaining nodes and get rid of them. All right, now you're left with, and I'll just get rid of that one too. Now you're left with the pattern inside of there. Actually, right, so you're left with that pattern. So that's how you do it. Now, obviously, that's super tight now. So that's why and this is what would happen in true keyline. Let's go back to here. We wouldn't even bother with this one. What we do here is we'd start again because it's got too steep a line. So I'll just get rid of. Oops. So we'll just take that out. So I'm going to draw a new line, and I'll do it on here, following this. So you start to see as well when you're drawing why you wouldn't go click, 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 click. You're just going to create a lot of work for yourself in taking out nodes afterwards. So now I'll go up, I'll go 10, and off we go. Right. With this whole thing, you can very quickly see if your pattern is doing what you want it to do too. So you can see here I followed that contour. I've gone up the slope. You can see here that point there is higher than that point there. That point there is higher than that point there. With that, you can say, okay, with confidence, I'll continue with this. I'll continue to use this guideline that I had set at the bottom. If it wasn't quite right, let's say it was dipping up a bit one side or the other, then you might just correct that. Get rid of these two. And like, for example, actually, I'll probably, that side's okay. I'll just go to here. I'll bring that back to where it was. Let's say I might tweak this up a bit, this side. So I'll just bring that up a bit. And now I'll offset. And up we go, right? And you can see that's just tweaked that up a bit. Another thing you can do is you can select multiple lines at once, save yourself a bit of time. But it won't be 10 meters offset, it'll be 20 because I've selected 2, and then that'll pop 2 ahead of you. Now you can see there we've got to our mischief again. So just take out a couple. Right, it's all corrected again. This will just be a straight shot now, so we'll do our next one. I'll just go 10. Right, and away we go. And it's probably likely we'll have to do another one. So that's the way that this keyline patterning will work. Okay. So that's that. Now we better get on with the rest of it in the time that we've got left. So exporting to Google Earth. Let's look at that. That's actually really easy. Now, I'll just get rid of this. What we do there, and I've already done this with this, let's say the water pipe. So one of the things that that this software does is you use this query function, and I don't use the whole GIS side of this thing. I just basically use this as a bit of drawing software basically, and using its attributes as such. So you can see here that whatever is at the top of the layer table is able to be selected all. So what you do for this Google Earth export, so if I want to export all of the water pipelines, for example, then what you'll do is move that up to the top of the tree here, select all, right? Just keep it at that, and then go to Map, and go to Google Earth link, and then go export to Google Earth. Now, you can either export it as a raster image, in which case it'll become an overlay, which is not editable, or you can export it as selected objects. So export the selected objects. Now, because we've selected all here of that layer, that's selected all of those objects, and now we can go OK. It will put it in a default path. Don't muck around with that. I have, and don't muck around so much with the names and blah blah. Just leave it at whatever MapInfo sets. You can play with that later, and then just go OK, and then it'll automatically go straight over to Google Earth and put those pipelines over where you had them on MapInfo. Sometimes, now just bear this in mind, sometimes there's no worries, Ramon. Sometimes there is a difference in projection between the two, and you need to be aware of that. And just so that you're aware, there's not much you can do there that I've found, apart from really tightening up on the geographic projection of the two maps that you're working with. You're working two bits of software, even though they might be using the same projection system. Like here, this is in Universal Transverse Mercator. The other in MapInfo, we're in, what are we in here? We can check here, Map Options, Projection, Longitude, Latitude, WGS84, right? So that's a digital version that's in a digital projection of longitude, latitude following the World Geodetic System, which is metric. So that's why they sort of match up. But you got to. That's one thing, and that's why I wrote a whole section in the Regrarian's Handbook on geographic projection. You just got to know that they exist, and how these different grids might not work with each other necessarily. And that's on purpose, because the whole purpose of military grids, as they're otherwise known, is so that if I get intelligence and a set of numbers about where to put a bomb, and I hear that on the radio, and then I go think, all right, well, I've just now found where my enemy is, but I'm using the wrong projection, so you might hit your own guys, right? So that's how it all started, and this is where it's at now. Or you're not going to find that port or island that I plotted. So that's the reason why those projection systems are all different, and there's hundreds of them. So with that, that's a pretty handy tool. But the big thing is, you'll notice here that, see the line styles, all it carries over, because Google Earth doesn't have any variation on line style apart from color and thickness, is you don't carry over the line style here, which we had on this map. I'll just zoom back to. I can just go easy actually. View entire layer, just water pipe. That'll get me straight to them. So you can see the water pipe layer here. It's got a black and blue line, or a green and black line. Whereas on Google Earth, it just carries over and it's either green or blue. So, that's just the way it is. But it lines it up, puts it in a layer over here. Now with that, of course, you can see it's got that full long title there. You can just click and rename that, or get info, it's probably easier, and rename that. and then you can put any information about it, whatever you want, in there. So, and it puts it all, but they are, each one of those, instead of being in one, that all of them are sort of selectable within one layer, here the individual lines are individual layers. So that's the downside. And then you've got to catalog that by bloody dragging it into spots and stuff, right? So now, the other day when I was working on this place, I did this already, and you can see I plotted in. So I exported the various lines that I'd drawn in MapInfo and sent them over to Google Earth. So this afternoon at 1 o'clock, I'll be having a conversation with the client, and he can look and edit and play and all of that. Whereas if we were using MapInfo, it'd be he can't do anything, right? Unless he's got that software and learns how to use it, which is not as easy to use as much easier to use than say MapInfo. Okay, so there's that part done. What else have we got? Saving workplaces, right? So this is a workplace, and what we've got here is a set of layers that are alive and a set of diagrams that are on screen that are alive. So if I decide to save a workspace and have all of these turned off, then that workspace will save what is, it'll keep all of these, it'll save whatever tables are open, right, that you've got, and that's something to consider. What tables do I have open when I save a workspace, because that can be a bit of a pain. And two, it'll save whatever you've got active. So it just saves the session, basically. So one of the things that we do is, first up is close table. And when you close table, you can actually see what tables are on. Those queries, by the way, they're all of the offsets that we've done. So you can turn them off. It doesn't really matter. I mean, they don't really matter that much, but it's the layers that are important. Now, I don't have any superfluous layers there. It's only the ones that I have open that are over here. Sometimes you have them and they don't appear in the side table for various reasons. So saving this workspace, you just go to Control K or Save Workspace, and you put it where you want to put it. So let me put this on documents. Oops, not there. That's it. MacIver. Oops, no, we'll go back. Ron. I've got all of these Ron files in there, and I'll just go MacIver concept. Now, that's one way of doing it. Save it, and away you go. Now, one of the other things that I discovered that's really useful, especially when you're shifting files about, open means visible. No, it's not open. By open, I mean visible. What is open is all of the tables that are open, whether they're visible or not. And it's not the whole list, because I can create another mapper. So I'll do another, say, new map window, right? Now I can select what will be in there. Let's just say we put those three, right? Oh, shit. Well, those four. I'll get rid of points, right? So I'll just make those. So I'll include in a new map window, bang, right? So this will make just that. Now you can see over there, I've got two different mappers, and I can just click between the two. That's really handy to be able to do, because you can, for reasons I'll illustrate in a moment. So it's the layers that are open, the tables that are open, that are recorded when you save a workspace. But it also it saves any windows that you have open, whether they're mappers or layers or otherwise. So One of the things that's important to do when you save a workspace is to save it where you've got all of your tables for a workplace. Yeah. So it will only save one of those mappers. No, it'll save as many as you have open. And I'll get to that in a moment. So just hang with me there. So if I've got all of that data, and I'll just find it, my documents. No, it's not there. Downloads, documents. MacIver. No, not there. Is that where they are? Just bear with me. I've just got to find where. Anyway, find wherever you've saved your tables, that's where you want to save the workspace. And the reason for that is because if you go and change in the code of the workspace, and I'll show you what I mean by this. Where am I? Windows. If I go, now a workspace is a WOR file. Just see what it finds for me here. And anyway, when you've got a WOR file, what it does is it actually, part of the file is it's got reference to the whole file categorization. And so, oh God, there's all sorts of stuff coming up. I can't show it, it's not working for some reason, but anyway. So with that, if you go and shift files around and you go and click on that workspace and try and open it, it won't open. You'll have to go and find all of these files that are somewhere else, and they may not even be on the same drive. So it's just a protocol that I always use. Always save the workspace in the folder that you put all of the tables in, and just keep it all together. Because otherwise, if you go back a year later or a month later and you've shifted things around, you've reorganized your filing cabinet, then you won't be able to find those other bits, or it'll just be a bit of fun finding putting them on. So that's an important thing to do, especially when you're doing something like I'll do now. So let's jump forward. Actually, we'll go right. So let's look at this. So we're going to go and, oh yes, create a map window. So I'll go into where all of this is in the file manager here. Where are we? Librarians, clients. As you can see, I keep everything catalogued exactly the same every time because it's all, a lot of it's actually got to do with MapInfo, but it's sort of helped give me a discipline. So there's the RON. So there's all of the tables that we've created, right? Now, with that, okay, so with that, I will do something. I'll open another tab, another thing here, and I'll get in here. You can do this in Windows or Mac, it doesn't matter. I'll go to, I think it's in here, clients. We go down, standard designs. So see, we've got standard designs, and I've got these WOR files here. So what I've got is these client templates. Now, this client template, for example, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that. So that's the workspace, and that workspace, I've specifically put them in here. Yeah, exactly. So I've specifically put them into one folder, and I'll show you why I've done this. So copy, and I'm going to go and I'm going to pop them into, I'm going to make a new folder in here. and I'm going to call that title box, and I'm going to paste these into there. Right, so they go in there. Now, when I go back into MapInfo, I'll find those. So I'm going to go Open, and I'm going to go Workspace. Right now, I'm in that RON file where everything is, but what I'm looking at is the tab. What I want to go is click Workspace. There's title box. There's that workspace. Now watch what happens. It creates all of these other windows. And it creates this all of these other layers. Now let's have a look at what these all of these other windows, I should say. So we've got about 10 minutes to go, so we'll just hot foot this, and so you can see here we've created this. I'll just have to get you out of the way a bit there. We've created this these templates already for a title box and data. So I've created, and I'll just give you a inside look at what I've done here. So there's the layers that we were working on before. See how they're all tabled here in the layer control, right? So when I look at the title block I did as a graphic, right? And so that is all a graphic that I made. Okay, that's all made up of, so that's the title block layer. That's a table, right? And then what I did was I just changed the details, right? So that's all editable. Now with that, I then did the same here. You can see this is for an A3, so they're for different size pages. Then on the Agrarians map, I've got that there, right? So that's the logo. So I've imported out one of our old logos, which is on its place on the screen. And then what I've done is I've created a layout. And so that's where I've gone. I've new layout window, and I'll do that. I'll show you what I mean here. And I won't collect any frames, so no frames. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to add frames to this. So with that, I use the add frame tool. So frame, and I'm going to bring in, well, let's say for a start, I want to put in the map as it is. So I'm going to change the page setup so that it's a letter, not a landscape, not a portrait. So because that's typically how maps go. And I want to put in, I'm going to grab my add frame tool, and I can select whatever I've got, I can put in there. And with that, I can get that aerial. That's the main map that we've worked on, and I can change the scale. I'm going to make that 1 in 100. And let's see what that looks like. So there we are. Now, you can see that that doesn't quite fit properly. There's nothing I can do in here. So what I have to do is I have to go back to here, and I'll just have to, because where this is on the screen and how much zoom it has is reflected in where it is on the other. So one way I can do this is I can go to view entire layer, and the boundary layer has got all of the map. So there's the boundary layer, right? That's the one way I play with that. So I'll go back to the new window I've just created. More windows, I think it's this one. No, it only displays so much. So layout 4. And you'll see now that it's all on the screen. But what it's done is it's whacked that scale out. So I'll make that go back to 1 in 100. And that's a 1 to 100. But you can see I'm missing a bit, so I can't use, I could probably try and fudge it a bit, and you might if there was nothing there. But, generally you always try and get the boundary within the screen. Or you change the page size. But the other option is that you change the scale. So 1 to 105 is not one that you would use too often, but it is a scale that you would use, right? Now, with that, we want to add a title box. Now, I don't have any room for a title box on here, and that's another consideration. So, but let's put it in anyway, just for illustrate the concept. So what I'll do now is I'll put down here, I'll add another screen. In this case, it's going to be the title block A3. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that title block A3 comes in. Now with that, see how none of that's editable, right? And that's, so what we've done is, instead of having it like that, and you might print this out and hand put that in, what I do is, instead of going the way I've gone here, is I've made these templates already. So we'll get out of this. Discard. And you can see here I've created a template, so view entire layout. And I've even left some of the arrows and whatnot that's been left over. Now what I can do here is I can change the logos, I can change the text in here, but that I can't touch, right? So that's all done. And now if I bring in, what I'll do now is I'll get my map that I just had, and I'll bring that in. And yeah, we'll just make it 50, so it's an even scale. And we can bring it in. You can see that still doesn't fit. So we'll just double click on it and we'll make it 60. Right, still doesn't fit. We'll make it 70. 75, whatever your rulers are, you want to stick with that, or if you're not using rulers, then don't get too concerned. And there we are. Now you can see I can't do a thing to that. I can draw on it, but what I draw on it will not be to the scale of the map. They'll be to the scale of the layout. So I can do all the things that I would otherwise do. I can send that to the back. I can send to back, so you can get all your annotation. I can move my annotation around. I can say dam 1, dam 2, blah, 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 blah. You can do all that stuff. You can put arrows off your annotation. So double click on your annotation. You can put an arrow. You can put a simple line. You can use all your line styles. You can put it in the middle, to the right, to the left, double spacing, etc. And away you go. Change the font. You can put a halo around the font or not. You can put a box around the font or not, and use whatever you've got loaded in Windows. And that's that. Obviously, there's more to it, but that just gave you the quick version of that. If you wish, I'm very happy to provide you with the layout templates that we've created, so that you don't have to go through the pain of creating them yourself. And I can put them, I can send them to you as an email or put them on Dropbox with a link. But because they're quite handy to have, and then all you have to do then is just change your image files here, and your text, and your scale for all of you here, except for Romain. You'll be working in Imperial, so yeah, you'll change whatever goes on, and that's about it. So I don't know that I got through everything. Just let me see. Setting up layer, yeah, I did. If anyone's got any questions on any of these items, there may be a supplementary. We'll do I think what I'll do next week is have a sort of a free-for-all for those who've joined these sessions. I'll send you all an email, and we'll have an hour where we just, which will be free of charge, where we just work through questions as a Q&A, and I'll record that as well. But thank you all for joining me today, and I really appreciate that, and I look forward to catching you probably around this time next week with that follow-up session where we'll close things out. All right. All the best. Thank you.